Yeah, I think every business, whether you're small business or even if you don't have a business, I mean, cybersecurity, it's a very important thing to have. I mean, to prioritize. Um,
Sure.
there's nothing more alarming. This happened just recently, actually. I get a Gmail notification saying that there was unusual activity on my Gmail account. That's my main Gmail account. That's where my Google Drive, my backed up cloud photos, my life is there. You know, um, and I know when it comes to cybersecurity, you're the expert on that. But most people just walk around
Well,
like they don't really take it seriously. So I wanted sort of bring light to that. Um, and you're the expert on that, so I kind of wanted you to explain the importance of protecting yourself and the internet in your business.
sure. So yeah, security and cybersecurity is, a multi-layered approach. There is no one single thing that people can do to protect themselves. It's a matter of implementing multiple layers of protection. That includes, antivirus. It could include implementing something called application whitelisting or application allow listing under a zero trust model. It could include implementing of firewalls and monitoring for logs and attempted logins um, that are suspicious in nature. So there's several different things that someone who is concerned about cybersecurity would need to do to protect themselves, or if they're inclined, they outsource that to a company like my own to take care of on their behalf.
Yeah, so talk to me about what you do. What
Sure.
sort of
Yeah.
what sort of services you guys do.
Yeah. So we act as an outsourced IT provider for approximately somewhere around 150 businesses in Tucson and Phoenix, Arizona. Um, we've been in business now for about 20 years. We have a small team of about 7 people, and we help with security, with backups, with monitoring, with performance. Um, Basically, we are utilized instead of an in-house IT person. You hire one in-house IT person. Generally, they're going to be between 80 and 120,000 a year, and instead of spending that money on one single person, you spend it on us, and you get access to a team of people. So no one's calling in sick. No one's, wanting vacation. Um, we're always available, always accessible, and that's why people choose outsourced IT companies over hiring internally.
And what does that include? IT. I thought it was mostly cybersecurity, but what other areas of IT does it include?
Yeah, so we're definitely not just in the cybersecurity space. We have clients that are asking for our help all day long with various requests, helping set up new users, helping block or delete people that they've terminated, helping them with their Dropbox, their OneDrive, their SharePoint, their email.
Mm.
If it involves technology and an IT request, we're helping them with it. We generally are probably taking in between 10 and 20 tickets a day,
Wow.
and we generally get back to everyone within a couple of hours, if not same day at the latest. So we're really proud of our responsiveness.
And you guys are responsible for webhooks and APIs integrations.
No, no, that's definitely outside of what
Okay.
we generally support. We're
Okay.
providing assistance for desktops, laptops, networks, and servers. In
Okay.
terms of application support, we know the Office 365 platform as it relates to email hosting and SharePoint. We have a little bit of expertise with QuickBooks. But in terms of like development or APIs or any of that stuff, that is outside of the realm of what we're typically supporting.
Are you a founder of the company, or you work there?
Yeah, I founded the company in 2005. So this year makes 20 years for us, which is pretty exciting. Um, and I've got two business partners now. They've been with me for about 2 years. So there's three partners and four full-time employees and a couple of contractors. Admittedly, sometime our team does get very busy, and we have to bring in outside consultants and contractors to help make sure that we're able to be as responsive as we want to be.
Wow. So 120 years later, 150 clients later. That's amazing.
Yeah, and admittedly, the clients are all different sizes, right? We have some clients that are very small. They're either one or two people in an office. But we also have some larger accounts. We have a dermatology practice that has around 100 users, and then a manufacturing client that has around 250 between five sites. So, and they're working like 20 hours a day. So, we're always helping them with their line of business software, making sure that it's up and running. And yeah, we just try to provide assistance in whatever way that we can.
So with regards to this business owners that are coming to you, what are some of their mistakes? Or because I would imagine they're not coming to you right off the bat. They usually made some mistakes, or learn things the hard way before going to a professional. So what are some of the I guess potential pitfalls that a business owner can encounter without
Yeah,
before
well,
working before they plan to go work
that's a
with
great
you?
question.
Yeah.
Great question. So yeah, a couple of clients that we've brought on board have been because they have experienced what's called ransomware in their environment. So um, what ransomware is, for those who may not be familiar with it, is it is a it is when an application, a malicious application, is downloaded into an environment and it is kicked off, it is executed, and then it recursively goes through every folder on the network and it encrypts all of the data within that folder and all of the associated subfolders. So over a period of several hours, a business's critical data can get encrypted, and then they are, um, excuse me, then they are told that if they don't pay the ransom, that their data will be irretrievable. And if they don't have a good backup strategy in place, if they don't have offsite backups, then they are left with either two choices. They can pay the ransom or they can recreate all of the data. And we have been through a couple of those. And let me tell you, Christopher, they are not fun. They are extremely nerve wracking. And, it's generally after those experiences that people are willing to make the investment into doing cybersecurity right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we regularly find that before an event like that takes place, they are apprehensive to spend money. And the reality is that doing cybersecurity properly is not necessarily extremely expensive, but they they don't want to spend the money, and then bad things happen, and then they do want to spend the money. And we as IT providers, and it's not just me, all of the companies that do what I do, we would rather someone spend the money up front and do IT correctly to begin with than have an emergency that we're charging them, double or triple the hourly rate to support. We don't like emergency work. We'd rather be proactive than reactive.
In healthcare, they have this famous quote that says, "An ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of the cure." But I think something like that can be applied
Yep.
to this as well. It's like a house, you know. Most people wouldn't have the ring bell, the door cameras, or anything until the car gets stolen, and then you go and buy the home security. So prevention, defense is your best offense. Otherwise, like you said, you're gonna be having to pay 3 times as much as what preventative measures would have been.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to take it one step further, Christopher, it's important to note that, not doing cybersecurity or backups properly, um, for a business that is unregulated and does not require any specific compliances, that can be bad, but you're not going to get fined. But if you are in the healthcare industry, if you're in the financial services space, if you are in any kind of regulated industry, if you're a Department of Defense subcontractor and you experience a breach, there can be tens of thousands of dollars of penalties and fines um, for not properly securing and protecting, yeah, client data, patient data, um, project data, you name it. There can be some significant penalties for that. So, there's no real excuse. Again, it's not expensive to be proactive. We're talking for most small businesses a couple $100 per month, um, versus spending, any kind of remediation efforts or investigation by, a company that handles um, a breach of data or a ransomware event. You're probably looking at between a 20 and $100,000 expense on a small company, and between 100 grand and $1 million on something in the mid-size arena. And that doesn't obviously even take into account, you know, employee downtime and, you know, lost revenue and all of the other things that people have to factor in. These cybersecurity breaches, they're only becoming more and more rampant. And something that someone should never think is we're too small for it to happen to us. If anything, they are just as likely of a target as someone who's large. We've seen small companies get attacked, and we've seen big companies get attacked. Size is not relevant.
Um, do you ever come across sabotage from um, a bad employee who probably wasn't agreeing with the reasons why he or she was let go, or does that happen in your space?
It does happen in our space. We've been, excuse me one second, Chris.
Yep.
We thankfully have not encountered that all too much. I think that maybe one time in the last several years have we seen an employee delete like all of their email before they got terminated or before they quit or something, and we were able to restore it, right? So it didn't do any lasting damage, but thankfully it's not very common to have internal malicious actions, but it definitely does happen.
So I guess you say that most of these things happen when it comes to ransomware, though, just for because of neglect or um, just not not caring as much.
Well, ransomware, there are multiple, attack vectors. Sometimes it could be an email link that someone clicks on something and that they shouldn't have. It could be, a website that they're downloading something and they don't quite realize what's being downloaded. Um, that's why one of the other layers of protection is browser protection. We've started working with a company called Conceal Browse, and just another layer. It helps protect the browser. We also work with a company called DNS Filter, and they help review all of the DNS requests that are made. So, yeah, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, security is a matter of layers. You can't just do one thing and think that you're covering all of your bases.
Wow, that's it. Just puts things into perspective how much there is at stake just by being a little bit more mindful. Because I get these emails too, even at my company. An email from our own CRM that looks like it's coming from our CRM that says this recorded call, something about a recorded call. If you want to listen to it here, you click on it and it's malware, it's ransomware, or
Yeah, yeah,
QuickBooks attached this fake, a lot of fake invoices, and I don't understand how they're able to figure out your ecosystem. Like they'll know your domain, they'll know your telephony provider, they know your CRM provider, your email hosting, and they'll send you
yeah.
emails that look like they're your own providers.
Yeah, I mean, they're sometimes just getting lucky, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes, they send you something that looks like a voicemail, but it isn't actually one. And, with the use of AI, these malicious individuals, they've got the ability to write better. A lot of these attacks are coming from places in Europe. A lot of the attacks are coming from places in Asia and potentially Africa, and with their ability to access a chat GPT or a Claude, it's easier for them to sound you know like their English is pretty polished, right?
Yeah,
So, a tracking label or a tracking shipment from UPS, or an invoice that needs to get paid. All of these things they work on carefully crafting to make it, really believable. And, even internally, we've received some emails that we've shared, with, other members of the team, like, wow, this looks really good. Like, obviously we didn't click on it, but if we didn't have the level of knowledge and the level of experience that we do, it'd be very tempting to do so, right? Because um, that's what they've gotten better and better at, is crafting them to make them really believable.
so it's imperative for any business owner, any manager, to have these conversations with their team, just to explain to them the sort of exposure you have and how overlooking an email or anything could potentially cause a lot of harm to the whole company, essentially.
100%. I mean, a lot of this comes down to employee training. That's a really huge aspect, and I'm glad that you touched on that. Yeah, I mean, you can implement all of the security products and all of the protection in the world, but just being vigilant and being mindful about what you're doing, only going to like known good sites, not going to like obscure websites, and making sure that you're not clicking links blindly, that if you don't know what something is for sure, or you weren't expecting it, like an invoice, that you either forward it to an internal IT person or you forward it to your outsourced IT team, because someone taking a look at it for 30 seconds may save the company hundreds or thousands of dollars in expenses, without a doubt.
Wow. Wow. And this is just, it's amazing because this is just like one of those things, like, I don't know, like insurance, that people think it'll never happen to you until it does. And it's the worst thing in the world.
Well,
And like you said,
that's very common these days, Christopher. People don't believe that it will happen to them. We, admittedly, we have a client in the medical space that can well afford the security packages that we've been presenting to them, but for reasons unknown, they don't believe that it'll happen to them, and they don't want to move forward with protecting themselves properly. And to be quite honest with you, we're probably at a point where we may need to let them go as a client because, if they don't want to do anything, forget about implementing every layer. If they don't want to implement any layer, um, there's a certain level of negligence, right? And it's like the moment that something bad happens in that environment and they are asked, well, who's your IT company? Who's been providing support to you? They're going to point the fingers at us and it's going to
Mm,
look really, really bad. And we're going to, tell whoever, hey, we've presented them multiple times with all of the security options, but they haven't moved forward. And it could lead to some culpability and responsibility on our part. And we just don't need that headache, right?
hmm.
For someone that doesn't want to spend $200-300 a month, that's added risk and not a whole lot of reward for not taking the basic steps to protect themselves.
Wow. It's almost like they can't afford not to have it. If you
They
factor
can't.
in,
They
yeah,
can't. And I understand. Here's the reality, Chris. I totally understand that there are people and businesses in this world that are struggling. I get it and I respect it. But this is an example of someone who's just being cheap, right? I know that they have a thriving practice. I know that they can afford it, but they just choose not to do it. And yeah, it's frustrating, right? Like, you know, how do you, as a physician, feel good about not taking any of the steps to protect your patient data? I can't wrap my mind around it.
oh wow, and it's in healthcare too. It's not even
Yeah, they're in healthcare. They're a medical provider.
wow. Yeah, that is negligence. But you know what they say? Doctors are horrible business people. That's what
They
I've heard.
are, but they unfortunately they think sometimes that just because they know a lot about the medical world that
Yeah.
extends outside of the medical world, and that's not true. They
Oh.
sometimes don't know outside of the medical space.
Yeah, yeah. I've met doctors that have no clue about processes and businesses and best practices, and you see it. You see the turnovers with their employees and reviews. And yeah, their practices end up imploding after a while because
Yeah,
of negligence.
yeah. They start out and they're probably doing okay at the beginning, but just like any business, whether it's healthcare or something else, if you don't have a good foundation in place, um, in relation to policies, procedures, security, whatever the case might be, the business is not going to be sustainable. It just won't be. And we've, to some certain extent, I've even seen that in my own. I for the first, I would say, 13 years, we it was just me, right? And maybe I had a person here and a person there helping me, and it was just all about the growth. I didn't really have a lot of foundation in place. And then around 2015, 2016, I started to implement systems. And, I just noticed that we were able to handle more because we had established procedures. And it's critical in every business, doesn't matter what kind.
Do you help the your clients with their procedures and SOPs with regards to the IT?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
If someone wants to have a disaster prevention plan, um, or an incident response plan, we're more than happy to help them develop that. That's if they're willing to make the investment, right?
Okay.
These documents are not like 1 or 2 hours of work to do it right. There are many hours of work that go into crafting these documents to make sure that they are thorough and complete and adhere to, everything that they need. But yeah, that is something that from time to time we are engaged and asked to help them with.
Do you have any military experience, like personally?
Now, we there are providers of IT services that are qualified to work with government subcontractors and uh, organizations that require CMMC compliance. We are not one of those organizations. There's some unique skills and some knowledge that's important in terms of procedure and adhering to all of the controls that need to be implemented. And that's just, it's not something that we are in that place right now. We had
Mhm.
evaluated it previously, but it's just not the right fit for us. Are already plenty of CMMC providers that do a great job. We don't want to try to do something that we're not great at. It's just, and unfortunately, that does happen, right? So there are a lot of MSPs, companies like mine, that try to engage in a space that they are not qualified to perform in or take action in. And that can be very detrimental to the people that they're serving. So we avoid doing that. We find that if we're not going to be, experts in something, it's not something that we're going to tackle.
So you started in 2005. What was it that motivated you to get into this space?
It's funny. I actually started in the space by accident. I was wearing like a Best Buy Geek Squad shirt, and I was walking through um, where there was a Starbucks, and this guy saw my shirt, and he owned a hair salon right next door to the Starbucks, and he said, "Hey, do you work on computers? Do you know anything about computers?" And I said, "Yeah, a little," because I've been working with technology since 1995. So this was, I had 10 years of experience under my belt when he asked me, and he was my first client. I got his two computers set up and networked together, and just continued growing organically after that for the next 20 years.
So it just sort of came to you, and you embraced
Yeah,
it.
I've been very, very, very blessed, Christopher. I'm born and raised here in Tucson. I've got a ton of relationships, but we strive to do excellent work and to be ultra responsive with all of our clients, whether they're big or small. And it's not easy. We we are oftentimes working way later than 8 to 5, but we do what we got to do. When you get into the IT space, you realize that it's not an 8 to 5 job. It could be an 8 to 2 in the morning job, and we've had a lot of days and nights to go that way, and that's okay. It's part of it. We understand the responsibility level and the trust that clients place in us, and we try to do everything we can to show them that they've made the right choice.
And I would imagine whenever you get a ticket, it needs to be done yesterday, right? From
Always,
from the client.
always. It's very rare for us to get a ticket and to be told, "Hey, get around to it whenever you guys can." We have it just
Everything is
doesn't
an
happen like
existential
that.
crisis. Every ticket is an
Uh,
existential crisis.
every ticket was a crisis, 100%. And you know, um, I have an amazing team. I am very, very blessed to be surrounded by the people that I've got. They work very, very hard, and you know, they are an extension of me, right? So they interact with the clients. They're helping them work through some difficult situations, and I'm very grateful to have the team that I've got.
That's pretty cool, man. I actually learned a lot. I'm actually happy we had this conversation. It gave me a big perspective on what you do and what companies like yours do. Because having an in-house person, they are at least 80, 90K a year,
Yep.
and you're at the mercy of them not being sick, not having personal life get in the way. And when we're talking about this tickets being an existential crisis. Well, if the person was in a car accident and he's gone for 2 weeks, he's in a vacation, it can affect your whole, even your bottom line too in the company,
Yeah.
um, and then your clients as well. So it has a ripple effect. So it seems like
You know,
you have it pretty well laid out, the process.
yeah, there's also a lot of hybrid models that are a really good fit. If someone does need um, someone that is dedicated to them, which, at a certain size of company, um, there's just enough going on where you do need a dedicated person or two. Um, it's always good to have, another company involved that understands, the system and everything. So if that person becomes unavailable due to sickness or a car accident or something, that we can swoop in. And there's a couple of
Yeah.
environments that we help with from a hybrid perspective. There's a full-time IT person there, but if they get stuck or they need some extra help, they reach out to my team and we provide them the help that they need.
Wow. Well, this was very insightful, brother. Um, what's the company? I'm gonna link it in the description.
Sure. Name of my company is On Top of IT.
And do you do your own podcast, your own content, or blogs or anything like that?
No, no.
No, everything is
We
organic.
I don't have a lot of time, so I stay focused. Right now, we're actually looking for other IT companies to buy, and while we've grown organically for the last 20 years, we're looking to increase that rate of growth via acquisition, and we'll see what
Wow.
happens.
Wow. So things are looking good for you right now. So you're
I'm I'm
busy.
very fortunate to be in the position that I'm in.
I'm I'm happy for you, brother. I could tell
Thank you so
you
much.
work a lot. You're very committed to this. So
Yeah,
mm,
in
yeah.
mostly good ways, but it does take a toll the toll on family and health and everything, and it's important to um, get exercise and spend time with your family and spend time with friends because if you don't, the job can become all consuming. And um, yeah, just it's important to live a balanced life, and I'm sure you of all people can appreciate that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. It takes. I think Kevin Hart was saying about that, about his marriage when he wasn't going so well, and he was, I was dating my wife and I was married to my career, and then I decided to be married to my wife and start dating my career,
Yeah,
because like he almost lost the wife, and as men it's very easy to get carried away because we're hunters. This is what we do, and we can go hours, very almost robotic, that we can do the same thing 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. But kids are not like that, partners are not like that, and so you have to sort of be very intentional about your work-life balance and even your health as well. Like just put the time block, your 2 o'clock workout, your 6 o'clock in the morning workout. Just be very forceful because it's very easy to let the work just take over. So yeah.
100%. Balance in everything is so critical to living a long, happy, healthy life.
Yes, sir. Okay, my friend, on that note, unless you have any final thoughts, I think we're good, man. That was pretty insightful.
Final thoughts are, make sure that you back up your data, right? So if you are unwilling to spend, not you, but if someone is not willing to spend money on security, make sure that you're backing up the data both to something locally like an external hard drive or a network attached storage device, and that you're also backing it up off site And if you really care about your data and it would be just a disaster if something happened to it, then implement a secondary offsite backup as well. Because, um, you know, for the $100 or $200 a month that you're going to spend, at least you can sleep well at night knowing that your data is safe. Those are my final thoughts.
Wow. Wow. That's wild, man. It really puts it into perspective. Yeah. Yeah. It's surprised. I mean, it's surprising how many companies are so neglectful of data. And as a
Uh,
human being too, because your data is in these companies that are being managed by people who are neglectful. And so at the personal level, you should
Absolutely.
worry about your data as well, right?
100%. And I think that, one of my other, final thoughts regarding this is, if someone has got their data with Microsoft or with Google, do not make the assumption that it is being backed up and protected. Uh, Microsoft is very clear about that. Unless you are buying one of their actual backup services, I think that they back up your data for like 30 days. So if you have a problem, you can go back 30 days, which can be helpful. But if you don't notice that there's a problem or whatever, all of your data could be gone. So it's just either get someone in house or hire a consultant to, once, twice a year, just make sure that, all of your I's are dotted and T's are crossed. That's
Yeah.
that's my the best advice I can give.
That was amazing advice, bro. That advice could save people millions and headaches and a whole lot of grief.
That's right. Christopher, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being and making the time, brother. Appreciate you.